Yes. Hi there, Rochelle. We're going to start with the United States and start with the latest coming out of the Federal Reserve. We're starting with the last major policy decision made by Ben Bernanke, to be specific. He'll officially leave his post as the chairman of the Federal Reserve later this week. And before that, the Fed has announced that it's reducing its monthly bond purchases. The central bank says that the US economy has improved to the point where it no longer needs as much support. Delana D'Souza has more.
The world's most influential central banker has made his last decision on the job. Ben Bernanke, who helped the world's largest economy from the brink of an abyss, has cut bond purchases by another $10 billion. Quantitative easing will most likely be his biggest legacy. Bernanke took the Fed into uncharted territory with this stimulus measure. QE started as a way to restore confidence. It soon became a tool for stimulating the real economy. And since 2008, the Fed has purchased roughly $3 trillion of mortgage securities and treasury bonds. His latest decision to taper the Fed's monthly bond purchases will no doubt have consequences in emerging markets. Tapering could see cash being sucked out of markets considered risky and move back to the United States. Still, the Fed and Bernanke's successor Janet Yellen are tipped to continue along Bernanke's path.
I think in the United States, the transition from Bernanke to Yellen is not any real change. I think it's perfectly good. I think it's more that the recovery in the U.S. has proven even more resilient than we thought.
How successful Bernanke's legacy is will partly depend on Janet Yellen. Analysts say it could take years to really understand how well he performed.
Now, the prospect of Fed tapering coupled with fears of lower growth has put pressure on emerging market currencies in the past week. In a bid to stem the flow, South Africa's central bank announced an interest rate hike on Wednesday. It's the first such raise by the bank since 2008. The South African rand has lost value against the dollar alongside the Turkish lira and the Russian ruble, to name but a few currencies in the emerging markets. The Turkish central bank raised rates late Tuesday after an emergency meeting. Now, there's concern that the rate hikes won't be enough to stem the flow out of emerging markets, and that's put a dampener on global stocks this session. American stocks, they closed in the red on Wednesday. The sell-off accelerated after the Fed announced that it's tapering its bond purchases. Boeing was among the shares that lost steam on a worse than expected outlook. In Europe earlier, stocks fell to a 6-week low. It's a similar story on this side of the Atlantic as in the United States, with worries about the Fed and emerging markets weighing on those equities. Let's talk you through a few other stories that we're following for you. Consumers in Germany are feeling more and more upbeat about the future. The research firm GfK says its reading of consumer confidence has hit a 6-year high. It's another sign that the German economy has started the year on a strong footing. A reading earlier this week put business sentiment near a 3-year high. It comes as jobless levels are stable and interest rates are low in Germany. Now, in a speech to Parliament in Berlin, Chancellor Angela Merkel, she hailed Germany's strong economy. But she also said that Germany's fortunes are linked to the Eurozone and that the Eurozone debt crisis is far from over. She called for tighter coordination of economic policies among the 18 countries that use the single currency.
I must point out that even though the European debt crisis isn't dominating our daily headlines, we must face the fact that it's only under control. It's far from being resolved in an efficient, sustainable way.
Dauerhaft und nachhaltig überwunden ist sie damit noch nicht.
And Angela Merkel sitting down there for the first time in the Bundestag since she's suffering from a fractured hip. So well wishes there to Angela. Hope she has a speedy recovery. Let's just talk you through one more story. Fiat is changing name after finalizing its takeover of Chrysler. The new group will be known as Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, and its shares will be listed in New York and Milan. The legal headquarters of the group will be in the Netherlands, and it will be a British tax resident. In Italy, there are concerns that the company is becoming less Italian, but Fiat says that the Italian headcount will stay the same. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this business bulletin. It's back to you, Rochelle, for the rest of the news.
OK, thanks very much for that, Marcus. Time now for a look at Media Watch. I'm joined by James Creedon.
Evening, Rochelle.
We were just talking on the news about Edward Snowden being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, it's got a lot of attention, a lot of headlines, Rochelle, across the world's media, and a lot of people pointing to the irony that Barack Obama, who's not the biggest fan in the world of Edward Snowden, right, himself got the Nobel Peace Prize just 4 years ago. And just to show you some of those tweets, people pointing that out. Irony of the day, Snowden's Nobel Peace Prize nomination is less than 5 years after Obama's. Another person, Scott Drenkard, saying Snowden nominated for Peace Prize, which is kind of funny.